Amos is writing around the 8th century before Christ, and he is regarded as the first of the canonical prophets, those who have come down to us in writing. And he was a voice against social injustice, so much so that he became unpopular at the National Shrine of Bethel and had to move on. A lesson for us in our time, that as the prophet had to speak forth pro fame in the name of the Lord, so too the preacher has to say what the Lord wants him to say, and not what the people want to hear. Otherwise he falls into what has been referred to more than once as the trap of being a dog that cannot bark. Canes muti. These canes muti are commented upon by the authors of the century, like St. Gregory the Great in his Pastoral Rule. A prophet, a preacher who does not proclaim is not doing what he's there for. The hungry sheep look up and are not fed, said Milton. How true may it be? The preacher has to compete against the pulpit of the television and the internet, where other truths are pumped with great velocity and force, and other norms are thence in the air all over the place, and he may be a solitary voice, and yet the prophet must speak. Psalm 112 is a psalm of praise, as is the series that follows, up to 117. These would have been used at the great religious festivals of the Jews. God is Lord, but he is a Lord not only of the universe, but of the poor, and like Amos, he is concerned for the poor. The series of readings that we have from St. Paul, writing to Timothy, his well-beloved son in the Lord, is something that we need to look at, for he gives a model of the true pastor. This can be picked up again by St. Gregory the Great, who in his Pastoral Rule looks for the quality of the pastor. Remember that Timothy was bishop, young though he was, at Ephesus. And St. Paul is inviting that there should be prayer of intercession for all categories of people. This has come down the centuries. It is found in the litanic prayers of the office, that is, at morning prayer and evening prayer. Those intercessions, which we find again in the universal prayer at Mass itself, are moments of impetration, of supplication for all categories of people. It comes through also in the Anglican liturgy. It comes also in the Eastern Orthodox liturgy, and in their case they have it in a mode of chant. Actually, in this hermitage I have maintained the same. It makes it more dignified, and it gives an ambit of otherness. And simple sung responses like Kyrie eleison work very well. It also happens at These. These are things which are difficult, not at all, very simple in fact, to produce and maintain once in place. And so we have this mode of impetration in prayer mode and in chant mode and in other mode of the Lord of hosts for all the needs of mankind. The parable of the unjust steward is actually one of the most difficult passages in Scripture. We must remember that the thrust of the parable is the message, and we must be careful of reading into all the details some equivalence. What is the Lord actually saying here? Well, he is saying at least this, that while we have to make use of the unjust mammon, money, we need to make it in such a way that we gain merit from it. Many people, as it were, live for mammon. Their life is felicitous in the measure in which they have a big bank account. There are no pockets in the shroud. But the person who is generous with what comes his way has joy and gives joy unto others. The saints used to say this with regard to divine providence: if in need, give. And indeed, when one does that, it comes back, usually fourfold. So we need to be completely aware that we have only an illusory ownership of things outside our soul. We can't even cling to our body. This morning there will be the burial of a lovely friend in the parish. Well, that helps us to remind each time the soul that sees the person going into the beyond that actually we only go with our merits, and great merits do follow the simple soul who used precisely the means they had to help others. Hidden generosity is not forgotten, either by man or by God, and in that sense there is a certain ownership on the invisible level, but not of the material, but of the use that we make of it, and therefore the merit gained by it. The Lord does note that the children of darkness are more bright than the children of light with regard to the way they manipulate things on earth. I remember hearing this comment from our prior in the monastery in France, the Holy Carthusian. He was talking about the way that some thieves are really well equipped and actually brilliant at their skill. They're professional burglars and very good at it. And he added this wry comment: on peut gagner beaucoup de mérite pour l'enfer. One can gain a lot of merit for hell. And so it is that in general we need to be careful where our energy is going. We work in order to keep body and soul together and to help the people of God and those around us. We are more than our work. If, for instance, our work becomes so stressful that we actually damage our soul and our brain and our quality of life, then things are out of order. We are only here once, and we need to be careful of this activism which has damaged our society in the West. Only 50 years ago, life was slower and therefore simpler. Now, many things solicit our attention, and many things in one same moment solicit our attention. That is, we're doing many things in one go, and therefore we are in some way leaking from many pores all the time. We need to find again good use of the material and of time, good use of work and existence, for we only have one chance, and when one buries a person, there one sees what matters and what mattered less.